Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 4 of Mondays with Mike, with my good friend, John Ferrara. Thank you for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, taking the time out of your super busy schedule. I saw you a couple weeks ago at the NAMM show.
That's right.
It's our NAMM Recap episode.
Absolutely, it was awesome.
Yeah, man.
Super fun.
You were out there killing it with Victor. At the Harkey booth, we had some fun as well.
Yeah, we absolutely did.
Did you get anthrax? Did you get sick?
I didn't get anthrax.
Me either.
No, I didn't get anthrax. The only physical thing was the feet, just standing all day.
Right.
All day. And then all night too, because I went out every night to a different a show or doing something social, so I was just on my feet a lot.
So overload.
Overload.
Did you hydrate? Stay hydrated?
I did.
A lot of talking.
A lot of coffee. A lot of coffee, yeah. It was great. I met so many great people. I got to play with so many great people, you included.
Yeah, we had a blast.
So much fun. I was at the Harkey booth for most of the time, but got to play with some like really interesting players and a very diverse range of players, which is great. You know, Victor was awesome. Jason from Black Label Society, he came over. He surprised me, man. I mean, I knew he was good, but he's a shredder, man.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
We got to give a shout out to Seth, your bandmate.
Seth Mutal, yeah, brilliant drummer.
Nyack, New York, baby.
Yeah. He's an anomaly, man. That dude, I remember seeing him at an open mic night, and I was just like
Olives?
At Casa
del
Sol,
yeah, Sol, Nyack.
Yeah.
Come on.
And yeah, there was like 5 people there, and he was just ripping a solo way too cool for the night. You know, it was like unbelievable. And so when I started thinking about having a duo project with another drummer, he was the first person I thought of. The only person I played with. I didn't try out anybody else. I was just like, this is the guy. There's no way it's gonna be anyone else. Brilliant human in general, love him to death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, Seth. Yeah, we've been known you for a while, but it's the first time I got to actually play with you.
Yeah, I met you back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I believe when your first Fodera was made.
Yeah, that's right, my 4-string. I remember meeting you, and I remember thinking you did the best setups.
I learned from the best, all right? And then just passing it forward, paying it forward.
That's right.
Hey, I remember that feedback early on. We're like, oh man, you available for a setup?
Yeah.
You do great setups.
Yeah, man, you're my guy.
I'm one of the guys too that when I do a setup, I just do it by feel. I don't get out rulers and straightening. It's got to be 64th of this and that.
Yeah.
I feel if it feels good, I'm sure it'll feel good for you.
Yeah, man, that bendy touch.
Yeah.
You got it.
Bendy touch, baby. I met you. You're already busy touring the U.S. with your band, considered a source.
That's right.
I'm sure you give a lot of lessons. You have a lot of bass fans out there. You're fantastic. One of my favorite. How do you do it?
I'm stubborn. I made a decision in my early 20s that music was what I wanted to do. And it was before Consider the Source started, I'd actually taken somewhat of a break from playing.
All right.
Because I wasn't feeling fulfilled in the musical endeavors that I was in. I had all these techniques and ideas, compositional ideas and things that I wanted to be able to express, and I had no outlet for it. So I was studying psychology. I was totally gonna go down a totally different route. And then once Consider the Source formed, and I realized I could have what I wanted musically. I was playing with 2 other players, Gabriel and Justin, who was a drummer at the time, who were phenomenal players, unique players, and we all had space to do our thing. I was like, this is what I want. And then I shortly after that made my decision, this is it. I don't want to do anything else. I want everything to be music related. So it was really tough for a bunch of years.
Yeah, man.
But I decided teaching, which is something I already loved doing. I started doing that in my late teens, but more casually. And so I already loved doing that, but I decided to tackle that as more of a steady thing. And then when Skype became more of a prominent force, that was it. I was able to go on tour. We take Mondays and Tuesdays off, and I teach all day on those days. And then we'll teach when we're on tour every now and then in the green room before a set. So between teaching, Consider the Source, and my side projects, my solo work and my duo project, I'm able to cover all bases, which is nice. It took a while to get there.
Yeah, that's something I don't teach you at some famed music schools, right?
No.
How do you survive when you don't have a gig?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. They talk about things that you never anticipate. When you start playing and you get inspired, you're like, I love music, I love playing, I want to do this, I need to do this. No one really tells you how. You'll get tips here and there, but they don't tell you it's going to be, your job is going to be hustle like crazy. It's going to be a lot of driving. It's going to be a lot of other life logistics that aren't music related. And you have to become a businessman, and you have to think like that in order to, you have to keep yourself afloat in order to keep your music afloat, and vice versa.
Right, because I remember when I met you, you guys were already touring. I had a group, the Bendy Pastorius group,
yeah, you guys
with my
were great.
Brother and Julius Pastorius on drums, and I was like, do you have any advice? Where should we book a tour? And you gave me a list of 150 clubs. Hit up these spots. You're going through these states, check this out.
Gig swapping, contacting people, say I'll play for free just for the opportunity. It's rough, man. It's rough at first especially, but it's doable. You just gotta really want to do it and be cool with, a lot of annoying things. Yeah, sacrifice and all that, but yeah, anything's possible for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm definitely proud of you with that. And you just released your debut solo album this past week.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So over the years, for the past 14 years or so, Consider the Source has been my main musical outlet, and it still is. It still is, 95% of my life is Consider the Source. But over the past couple of years, there's some compositional ideas I had that, for one reason or another, didn't work with CTS. So I started venturing out, and I put out a duo album about 1.5 years ago. And this is my first solo album. So I started branching off ideas that would work with CTS, ones that would work with the duo, and then ones that would work just as solo pieces. And it's an experiment. Right. I still don't know if they work as one. And that's kind of why I wanted to put the album out and see, how does this play out? I had things that I really needed to express and put on paper. Yeah. Wanted to see, can these exist as solo pieces? One of the main ideas, one of the inspirations behind, the way I approach the tapping and all that on the album is thinking more like a piano player. Totally. I remember going to see, Brad Meldau, Chick Corea, players like that, and they can just doing what they do captivate an audience, or put out an album and you listen to it and you're like, this is some of the most beautiful music ever. Yeah. So, I'm thinking, with the tapping technique, you can, act like a piano player, which is really cool, a lot of fun, very challenging. There's a lot of things to navigate and figure out around it, but that's been the thing I've been exploring for the past bunch of years. So. Right. How did that begin, the tapping process? Because you're like an alien with that. Thanks. It's a work in progress, but so it started off as a compositional tool. So I'd have an idea for a melody, an idea for a bass line, and I would very awkwardly just pick up my instrument and try to say, okay, this would roughly be the bass line, this would roughly be the melody, figure it out, and then present it to my bandmates and say, okay, I have an idea, it's roughly something like this. I never really intended to make that the bass line in the earlier stages. But after a couple of years of doing that, I, kind of by osmosis started creating a technique. Right. A very loose one. And then there were some bass lines that I would keep as tapping, and that would be my bass part. And then, past that, it was like, okay, I have enough chops now where maybe I can attack this more formally. Yeah, did it take a while for the left-right brain hemispheres to merge? years, totally. And they still are. There's some things I feel really comfortable doing, some shapes and some rhythmic ideas that are like, okay, I know I can express and improvise with this and write with this, and that feels really good. Yeah. But still, there's huge gaps in it for me. I'm still working on a lot of things and trying to find exercises, pulling from different sources to try to have a more comprehensive technique. But yeah, over time I just started, I kind of used the approach that I developed with slap bass, which was thinking in terms of smaller numbers to create bigger numbers. Okay. So figuring out different ways of expressing 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s, and then combining them in different ways. And yeah, like a couple years into that, I was like, wow, you know, I actually have some legitimate chops on this now. And on top of that, I would learn piano pieces. So we talked earlier about Philip Glass.
Yes.
I would learn some Philip Glass stuff. I would learn some things like that, and then start writing things in that vein. You know, learn Bach pieces, learn anything I could transfer from piano to bass. And then yeah, over time I just started developing some ability with it.
That's fantastic. I love where it's going, where it's progressed to. So bringing it back to the beginning, how'd you hear Fodera? How'd you get your first Fodera? What happened?
Well, it was at Bass Day, I forgot what year, late 90s, one of them. It was, I think Victor Wooten was on it, but I don't think he was like, I think he was like a special guest.
Okay.
At the time I had never heard of him. And I watched him play, and it just blew my mind, as is the story for millions of every bass player pretty much, especially at the time. I remember I was playing for a couple of years at that point, and I was practicing a lot and really taking to it, and I felt pretty good about myself as a player. And then I remember seeing him play and seeing everyone around who was just killing it doing his double thumb technique, and just being like, wow, there's so much out there. There's so many amazing players out there. And so I remember walking around to all the booths and seeing all these people play, and coming upon the Fodera booth. And I noticed that that's the one Victor played, and I heard everyone playing on it sounding so awesome. And I played one, and instantly, like, I had a Stingray at the time, and I was like, this is a great bass. And then I played that, and I said to myself, this is unlike anything.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely miles above everything else that I had played at that point. It was so easy. There was things I always wanted to do on other basses and couldn't, and I was able to do them. So that was my first impression of it. That was maybe when I was 15 or so.
Gotcha.
And then years later, I'd always taken music really seriously, practiced a lot, gigged a lot. And right when I graduated college, I came in here with my father. We hung out. Everyone was super cool. We met Vinny, we met Joey, we met you, we met everyone, and everything was, everyone was very welcoming and awesome. And yeah, we decided to, make it happen.
What was that first instrument?
It was a 4-string Monarch. And I mean, I was instantly a better player.
Right.
I took it home, I started working on it. The cool thing about it was, there's the way the bass sounds and feels, and that, already you sound better and you feel more confident as a player. But you also, I feel like owning a Fodera, you don't want to be a scrub, You want to live up to the instrument. They're geniuses. Right. They built the best instruments in the world, the best basses.
And the artists that play them, come
exactly. on. Yeah, you can't just casually play a Fodera. You need to honor it, own up to it, Totally. So there was, the physical side of it, and then the mental side of it of I really want to be the best player I can be. Yeah.
And now you have a 5-string beast with the Buckeye Burl top.
Oh yeah.
And I noticed when John brought it in, there's a nice little crater being formed by his amazing technique and years of dedication to the craft. How did that one come along? You got a Kaler in there too.
Yeah, I got a Kaler. Yeah, when I asked him to make it, I asked him to put a Kaler bridge on, and I also asked him to make it with a high C rather than a low B.
Totally.
So I was the tapping. I was getting more and more into that, and I wanted to have an extra, a little bit more options. So higher options too. And I was actually really nervous about it because it was a thought I had that it would be really cool, but I had never played a 5-string with a high C. I conceptually thought it was a good idea. So I was really nervous, and when I got it, it wouldn't make sense for me. So I remember the day I picked it up, I picked it up at 10 a.m. or something and drove right to a festival that Consider the Source was playing, and I used it. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be afraid of this thing. Yeah. I'm just going to play it every day until it feels comfortable. And that's what I did. And
jumped right into the fire.
And it was so foreign to me. The neck was thicker, the high string made no sense to me. And that day, not only was I nervous about playing it in front of people and making all sorts of mistakes, Oteil Burbridge was at the festival.
That was that day.
And he sat in with us, and we did like a dual bass solo, and I was like, really? Like, I'm not gonna say no to that.
Right.
He's one of my heroes, you know. But
It's one of the masters.
But I was like, I don't know what I'm doing on this bass right now. This is freaking me out. So I kept it percussive and simple, and let him be amazing. But that was my thought, was just like, play it every day until it feels comfortable.
Totally.
And I'm so happy I did, because it changed everything about my playing, my technique, and me as a composer.
Yeah,
you know,
I
being
think
able
it's
to,
really special having that high C string. It opens up so many new doors and like realities.
It's like a different instrument, man. You know, you can really, you can think. I feel like sometimes when you have like. You have 4 strings, you could do a billion things on it. Look at Victor, you know. He's brilliant with it. When you have the higher string, you can, I feel like you could think more melodically, you know. Not more melodically, but whatever, you have more options.
Yes.
So for me, what helped me with was the certain tapping positions that I have. Like trying to think of it in terms of like how a piano player might approach it. It just makes so much more sense. It makes so much more sense. There's so many more things you could do. It gives you the confidence to go for them too.
Yes.
You know, even having a 5-string with a low B, it's fun. You could do a lot of cool things with it tapping wise, but having that higher voice is just, I don't know, it just makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I remember when I first did that, first person I realized doing that was Matt Garrison.
Yeah.
In Heart of Things with John McLaughlin.
Right.
Ready, tuned it E to C. And I remember doing that on my like Fender Jazz American Deluxe, and it was just like, wow, this is different. But it made totally sense. I didn't have money to buy a 6-string to be like Oteil back then.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I can kind of do the chord registers that he's doing and what up on the neck. I was like, this is fucking dope.
Yeah, it makes sense. It just totally makes sense. It was funny when at NAMM when I was playing the 4s, that also felt like home in a way, because that's what I had played for so long. But I was realizing as I was playing, I was gonna go for something up high, and I was like, wait, I can't do that.
Right.
Can't do that with this. So it's funny. I almost felt like it brought me back in time to the player I was 5 or 6 years ago. You know, and in a good way, not like even like in a regression kind of way, more in a that's how I used to think, and there was something cool about that way. But yeah, having the 5, like that just feels like home for me now. You know, that's what I've been doing in all my projects. That's like the only bass I play.
Yeah, put a lot of miles on it.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that crater there. So my slap technique uses these 3 fingers kind of embedded in the body of the bass. So every time I thumb or pluck off, you know, like it's doing that.
Slowly
so my
but
nails
surely.
get digging into it, and yeah, like maybe a year and a half, 2 years into it, I started noticing like little like nail marks, you know, and then 2 years into it, it was like, okay, it's a little bit of a thing. 3 years into it, it was like a little bit of a crater forming, and now it's like a centimeter deep, like an actual.
I love seeing that.
I love it. Yeah, Dan just came in and asked if he wanted me to, if he wanted to you know, kind of
slow down the process.
Slow down. I was like, no, it's good. It's good. When I start being able to see through the other side, we'll.
Did you ever see Victor's number 37?
Oh yeah.
So
man. Yeah,
that's wild. It's like the Grand Canyon.
I'm years away from that. Yeah. But it's beautiful. I love that. I love seeing things like that. That means it's been loved.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember when I got my when I picked that bass up from here, I think it was Joey said, you know, like, you know, be careful with it, but not too careful. You know, like, you know, I took that as play the way you play. You know, it's got dings on it. It's a little, you know, we do 120 shows a year.
Exactly.
Consider the Source alone, aside from other projects. So it's, you know, it's out there a bunch, but. I feel at home with it now. That's you know, beautiful. All the markups, all that stuff. You know, I love it. I love the way it looks.
Right. So speaking of 120 dates a year, do you have any upcoming dates that you want to share?
Yes. So Consider the Source is going back on tour starting the end of February, and we'll be hitting the road pretty much from then until forever. But really until about May, and then we'll start doing festivals. So if you go to considerthesourcemusic.com, you can check out all of our tour dates there.
And where can we find your debut solo album?
If you go to my Facebook page, John Ferrara Music, or find me on Instagram, I have links to it all there.
Awesome.
Yeah. JohnFerraraMusic.com, also my website.
Thank you everyone for checking out episode 4 with my good friend, John Ferrara.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming in, man. Good luck on those dates coming up.
Appreciate it.
You all better show up.
Yeah.
Support this guy. See you soon. Hey everyone, it's me, Mike Bendy, coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York, Fodera headquarters. This amazing Matt Garrison 5-string may look familiar to some of you. Our good friend Scott Devine of Scott's Bass Lesson refound his lost Matt Garrison that he sold years ago and it magically reappeared. Our good friend Andy Mattina then placed an order for that same specs of that bass. And check this out. This Primavera top is actually from the same wood blank of Scott's bass. We had it sitting in our wood library, waiting for Andy. You don't see that happen too often, so look at that. Primavera top, ebony fingerboard, ebony ramp, Seymour Duncan dual coils, 33-inch scale, 26 frets, 3-piece ash neck, ash tone block with walnut body wings. We're so happy for Andy, and thank you, Scott, for getting your bass out there. Thanks for tuning in for the custom of the week, Matt Garrison Signature 5. See you next time.
Subscribe to Fodera Guitars and watch Mondays with Mike. That guy. This is going well.
Heck, to get that out the way.
Let's talk about the apocalypse.
Yes.
Oh, well.
There's a hell below, we all gonna go. Breaking up the air, you know? Loosening up. Unique New York. Unique New York.
Yes, we are.
Shall we roll it, Jimmy?